Your dog knows when you're coming home, not because they hear your car or recognize your footsteps, but because they can smell time itself. Dogs experience the world through scent in ways we cannot fully comprehend. And as the day progresses, your scent fades from the house at a predictable rate. Your dog has learned this pattern so precisely that they know, through the absence of your smell, exactly when you're about to return. But this is only the beginning of what makes dogs one of the most mysterious companions humans have ever known. If you're new here, welcome. This is a space dedicated to exploring the world's most fascinating facts in a calm, meditative way. If you find value in these journeys through knowledge, I'd be grateful if you'd subscribe and turn on notifications. It helps these explorations continue, and it means we can discover more wonders together. Tonight, let's explore the hidden world of dogs. Creatures who have walked beside humans for so long that we've actually changed each other's biology. Our evolution intertwined in ways that make it impossible to imagine humanity without them. Dogs have been our companions for at least 15,000 years, though some evidence suggests it might be closer to 40,000. That means dogs were with us before we built cities, before we invented writing, before we discovered agriculture. They were there in the darkness of prehistoric caves, sitting by fires that pushed back the night. And in all that time, something profound happened. Dogs didn't just become tame. They became the only species on Earth that can read human facial expressions almost as well as other humans can. When you smile at your dog, they understand. When you frown, they recognize the emotion. They can distinguish between a genuine smile and a fake one. No other animal has this ability, not even our closest relatives, the chimpanzees and bonobos. Dogs evolved this unique skill through thousands of generations living alongside us, learning to read the subtle shifts in our faces, the tiny movements of our eyebrows, the curve of our lips. They became specialists in understanding us. And this leads to something equally fascinating. Dogs have muscles around their eyes that wolves don't have. These muscles, the ones that allow dogs to raise their inner eyebrows and create that pleading, wide-eyed expression we find so irresistible, developed specifically because of their relationship with humans. It's called the puppy dog eyes effect, and it's not just cute, it's evolution in action. Dogs with more expressive faces had a better chance of forming bonds with humans, of being cared for, of surviving and passing on their genes. Over thousands of years, dogs literally changed their faces to communicate better with us. Consider for a moment what this means. Dogs adapted their physical structure, their very biology, to connect with us emotionally. They evolved to be understood by us, to trigger our protective instincts, to make us love them. It's one of the most remarkable examples of coevolution in nature. But there's more to the story. While dogs were changing to understand us better, we were changing too. Studies show that when humans and dogs look into each other's eyes, both species release oxytocin, the same hormone that bonds mothers to their babies. This is extraordinary because oxytocin bonding typically only happens between members of the same species. Dogs hacked into our neural circuitry, into the deepest systems that govern human love and attachment. When you gaze at your dog and feel that surge of affection, you're experiencing a biological response that was supposed to be reserved for your own children. This reveals something profound about the nature of interspecies relationships. Dogs aren't just pets. They've become, in a very real biological sense, part of our family structure. The love you feel for your dog isn't metaphorical or sentimental. It's measurable. It's chemical. It's as real as any bond in nature. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Dogs can smell fear, but not in the way most people think. When you're afraid, your body releases adrenaline and other stress hormones through your sweat. Dogs have up to 300 million olfactory receptors in their noses, compared to about 6 million in humans. They can detect these chemical changes in your body before you're even consciously aware you're afraid. Your dog knows your emotional state through scent, reading your biology like we read words on a page, which brings us to understand their extraordinary sense of smell in ways that feel almost like science fiction. A dog's nose is so sensitive that they can smell things in parts per trillion. To put that in perspective, that's like detecting a single drop of liquid in 20 Olympic-sized swimming pools. They can smell what time it is. They can smell which direction someone walked hours ago. They can smell diseases inside the human body. Dogs have been trained to detect cancer, diabetes, seizures, and even COVID-19 with accuracy rates that sometimes exceed medical testing equipment. But there's something even more remarkable about a dog's nose. They can smell in stereo. Just like you can determine where a sound is coming from because you have two ears, dogs can determine where a smell is coming from because each nostril processes scent information independently. When they wiggle their nose back and forth while sniffing, they're actually creating a scent map of the environment, building a three-dimensional picture of the world made entirely of smell. Imagine experiencing reality this way. While we navigate primarily through sight, dogs navigate through an invisible landscape of scent that tells them stories we cannot access. Every person who walked by left a trail. Every emotion someone felt left a chemical signature. The past lingers in the air as something tangible, something readable. To a dog, the world is a library written in molecules, and this connects to something equally mysterious. Dogs dream, and they probably dream about you. When you watch your dog sleeping and see their paws twitching, their eyes moving beneath closed lids, their muscles trembling with phantom activity, they're experiencing something remarkably similar to human dreams. Brain scans show that dogs enter REM sleep, the stage where dreams occur, and their brain patterns during this phase match the patterns they show when they're awake and interacting with their favorite humans. The evidence suggests that when your dog dreams, they're reliving their experiences with you, playing, walking, simply being together. This reveals something touching about the inner lives of dogs. They don't just spend their waking hours with you. You accompany them into sleep, into the private theater of their unconscious mind. Your presence in their life is so significant that their brain rehearses it, processes it, returns to it even in rest. But let me tell you something that might change how you think about your dog's perception of time. Dogs don't experience time the way humans do. Their sense of duration is fundamentally different, shaped by their heightened senses and faster neural processing. What feels like an hour to you might feel much longer to a dog. Some researchers believe that dogs experience time in a way similar to how time seems to slow down for humans in moments of crisis or intense focus. Those 8 hours you're at work might feel to your dog like an entire day, maybe longer. Every absence is magnified. Every return is a reunion of profound significance. This might explain the intensity of their greetings, the overwhelming joy they express when you come home. To them, you've been gone for an eternity. You disappeared into a vast expanse of time they couldn't measure or control. And now you've returned, miraculously, impossibly. Of course they celebrate. Of course they cannot contain their happiness. And alongside this altered experience of time, dogs have an ability that seems almost supernatural. They can sense natural disasters before they happen. Hours before earthquakes, tsunamis, and volcanic eruptions, dogs often display strange behavior. Whining, hiding, refusing to go into certain buildings, acting agitated without apparent cause. The 2004 tsunami in the Indian Ocean killed over 200,000 people, but remarkably few animals died. Dogs, elephants, and other creatures fled to higher ground before the wave hit, responding to signals humans couldn't detect. Scientists believe dogs might be sensing subtle changes in the Earth's electromagnetic field, or detecting sounds at frequencies too low for human hearing, or even feeling the initial tremors that are too faint for us to notice. Whatever the mechanism, dogs seem to have access to information about the physical world that remains hidden from us. They live partially in a reality we cannot perceive. Which brings us to the strange truth about dog intelligence. For a long time, scientists tried to measure how smart dogs were by comparing them to wolves or other animals. But this was the wrong question. Dogs aren't necessarily smarter than wolves. They're differently smart. They've evolved a specialized intelligence designed specifically for reading humans and navigating human social structures. A wolf might be better at hunting or surviving in the wild, but no wolf could do what dogs do. Understand pointing, follow human gaze, interpret human emotions, cooperate with strangers on complex tasks. Dogs developed social cognitive abilities that match and sometimes exceed those of chimpanzees, but only when the task involves understanding humans. They're geniuses at being dogs, at fulfilling the role they evolved to fill. Some dogs can learn over 1,000 words, can understand complex sentences, can make logical deductions based on exclusion. They know what you're thinking, not through telepathy, but through an extraordinary, refined ability to read your body language, your tone, your facial expressions, the direction of your gaze. Your dog is constantly studying you, learning you, predicting you. They know your routines better than you do. They recognize the difference between you putting on shoes to walk them versus shoes for going to work. They hear your car, specifically among all the other cars on the street. They can tell if you're about to give them a treat based on micro movements you make unconsciously. You are the most important thing in their world, and they have devoted their considerable cognitive abilities to understanding you completely. And here's something that feels almost magical. Some dogs can tell when their owner is about to have a seizure, sometimes up to 45 minutes before it happens. These seizure alert dogs, often discovered by accident rather than through training, respond to cues that medical science still doesn't fully understand. They might detect subtle changes in scent, in behavior, in some electromagnetic signature the body gives off before a seizure begins. Whatever they're sensing, these dogs provide early warning that can be life-saving, giving their owners time to get to safety, to take medication, to call for help. This connects to the deeper truth about dogs as healers. Petting a dog lowers your blood pressure and heart rate. It reduces cortisol, the stress hormone, and increases dopamine and serotonin, the chemicals that make you feel good. Simply being in the presence of a dog can calm anxiety, ease depression, provide comfort in ways that are physiologically measurable. Dogs are living medicine. Their presence alone a form of therapy that predates any human understanding of psychology or wellness. Hospitals and nursing homes that allow dog visits see patients recover faster, require less pain medication, report better mental health. Children who grow up with dogs show lower rates of allergies and asthma, stronger immune systems, better social skills. Dogs don't just make us happier, they make us healthier, more resilient, more connected to the world around us. But there's something about dogs that goes beyond their benefits to humans. Dogs have their own inner worlds, their own preferences and personalities, their own experiences of joy and sorrow that exist independently of us. When scientists study dog behavior, they find evidence of complex emotional lives. Dogs can feel jealousy when they see you paying attention to another dog. They can feel guilt, though perhaps not exactly the way humans do. They can experience depression when separated from their companions. They grieve. When a dog loses a human or animal companion they were bonded to, they often show signs of mourning, loss of appetite, lethargy, searching behavior, vocalizing in distress. This reveals something important about respecting dogs as beings with their own subjective experiences, not just as accessories to human life. Your dog has preferences you might not have noticed. Maybe they like to sleep in sunbeams because the warmth reminds them of sleeping in a pile with their littermates. Maybe they bring you toys not because they want to play, but because they're trying to give you a gift, trying to provide for you the way a pack member would. Maybe when they lean against your leg, they're not just seeking comfort, they're offering it, providing the physical presence that dogs use to reassure each other. And this leads to something equally fascinating about how dogs see the world. Literally. Dogs don't see the world in black and white, as the old myth claims, but they don't see the full range of colors humans do. They're red-green colorblind, similar to some humans. Where you might see a lush green lawn and a bright red ball, your dog sees shades of brown and yellow. They live in a world muted of certain colors, but enhanced in other ways. They see better in low light than humans do. They're more sensitive to motion. They notice things moving in their peripheral vision that we would miss entirely. So when your dog is staring intently at something you can't see, they're not looking at ghosts. They're seeing the tiny movements of a moth near the ceiling, or the way shadows shift with passing clouds, or the subtle sway of grass that indicates a small creature moving through it. Their visual world is different from ours, tuned to different priorities. They're hunters by ancestry, built to detect movement, to track prey, to navigate in the twilight hours of dawn and dusk when wild dogs are most active. Which brings us to understand their sleep patterns. Dogs sleep an average of 12 to 14 hours a day, but not all at once. They're polyphasic sleepers, taking multiple short naps throughout the day and night. This is another remnant of their wild ancestry, when staying alert for extended periods was crucial for survival. Even domesticated dogs retain this pattern. Their sleep light and easily interrupted, always ready to wake if something requires their attention. When your dog seems to be sleeping, they're often in a light doze, still monitoring the environment through their exceptional hearing, ready to spring into full alertness in an instant. And their hearing. Dogs can hear frequencies up to 65,000 hertz, while humans max out around 20,000 hertz. They can hear sounds from 4 times farther away than we can. That world you experience as quiet is, to your dog, filled with sound. The electrical hum of appliances, the ultrasonic squeaks of rodents in the walls, the high-pitched whine of a television left on standby. Dogs live in an environment rich with sounds we cannot detect, a hidden symphony playing constantly in frequencies beyond human perception. This might explain why your dog sometimes barks at nothing or seems agitated for no reason you can identify. They're responding to stimuli you cannot sense, living partially in a reality that overlaps with yours but extends beyond it. To understand a dog's behavior, you have to accept that they're experiencing a different version of the same environment, one where the dominant senses are hearing and smell rather than sight. And this connects to why dogs tilt their heads when you talk to them. That adorable gesture isn't just cute, it's functional. When you speak, your dog is trying to locate the source of specific sounds and read your facial expressions simultaneously. The shape of a dog's muzzle can block part of their view of your face, so tilting their head gives them a better angle to see your mouth and eyes. They're gathering information, trying to decode what you're saying through a combination of auditory and visual cues. Every head tilt is an attempt to understand you better, to bridge the communication gap between species. Some researchers also believe that head tilting might be associated with memory. Dogs tilt their heads more often when they hear words they know, as if the physical gesture helps them retrieve the associated memory or concept. Your dog might tilt their head when you say walk or treat, because they're accessing their internal dictionary of human words, matching sound to meaning through a process we still don't fully understand. But let me tell you about a dog named Chaser, a border collie who learned the names of 1,022 distinct objects. Not categories, individual names for individual toys. She could retrieve any specific item on command, demonstrating a vocabulary that exceeded what anyone thought possible for a non-human animal. When researchers tested her, they found she understood that words are symbols for objects, a conceptual leap that requires abstract thinking. She could learn new words through inference, figuring out the name of a new toy by process of elimination when asked to fetch an object she hadn't heard of before. Chasu's abilities revealed that the limit on dog intelligence isn't in their capacity to learn, but in our commitment to teach. Most dogs never come close to reaching their cognitive potential because we don't challenge them enough. We teach them a handful of commands and assume that's the extent of their capability. But dogs are capable of understanding complex syntax, responding to sentences with multiple elements, even grasping basic grammar rules about word order and meaning. This reveals something profound about the nature of animal intelligence. For decades, scientists defined intelligence in ways that privileged human abilities: language, tool use, self-awareness. But dogs demonstrate that intelligence comes in many forms, adapted to different needs and contexts. A dog's intelligence is oriented toward social cognition, toward understanding and cooperating with other beings, toward reading emotional states and responding appropriately. This is a kind of brilliance that humans often overlook because it doesn't match our narrow definitions. And alongside this social intelligence, dogs possess something even more remarkable. They have an internal compass that allows them to navigate home across extraordinary distances. There are countless stories of dogs traveling hundreds of miles to return to their families, crossing terrain they've never seen before, finding their way through cities and wilderness with seemingly impossible accuracy. Scientists believe dogs might be able to sense the Earth's magnetic field, using it as a navigational tool the way birds do during migration. Studies have shown that dogs prefer to align their bodies along the north-south axis when they defecate. This seems like a trivial observation until you realize what it implies. Dogs are constantly aware of magnetic north, constantly oriented in space through a sense that humans simply don't possess. They're navigating using an invisible map written in the Earth's magnetic field, following lines of force that shape their perception of direction and location. Which brings us to the strange truth about dog breeds. All dogs, from the tiny Chihuahua to the massive Great Dane, are the same species. They can all interbreed and produce fertile offspring. Yet they display more variation in size, shape, and appearance than any other mammal on Earth. This incredible diversity was created by humans through selective breeding over just a few thousand years, making dogs one of the fastest examples of evolution we can observe. We took wolves and, through careful selection, created animals that look and behave in radically different ways. But here's what's fascinating. Despite all this physical variation, all dogs share fundamental behavioral traits that connect them to their wolf ancestors. They all have a pack mentality. They all engage in social hierarchy. They all display similar play behaviors, similar communication signals, similar emotional responses. A poodle and a pit bull, despite looking nothing alike, speak the same language. They understand each other's body postures, vocalizations, and intentions. Beneath the surface diversity lies a shared inheritance, a common foundation that no amount of selective breeding has erased. And this connects to something most people don't realize about dog barking. Wolves rarely bark. Barking is primarily a behavior that dogs developed through domestication, a form of communication directed at humans rather than other dogs. Your dog barks at you because, over thousands of years, barking became a useful way to get human attention. Dogs that barked more were more likely to have their needs met, more likely to alert their humans to dangers or opportunities, more likely to survive and pass on their genes. Different barks mean different things. High-pitched barks usually indicate excitement or playfulness. Low-pitched barks suggest aggression or warning. Rapid barking signals alarm. Spaced barks might mean loneliness or a request for attention. Your dog has developed a sophisticated vocal system designed specifically to communicate with you, creating sounds that wolves never needed because they had other wolves to understand them. Dogs created a new language to talk to a different species. But there's more to dog communication than vocalizations. Dogs use their entire bodies to express meaning. A wagging tail doesn't always mean happiness. The speed, height, and direction of the wag all convey different emotional states. A tail wagging more to the right side indicates positive emotions, while a tail wagging more to the left suggests negative feelings. This is because the left hemisphere of the brain, which controls the right side of the body, is associated with positive emotions and approach behavior, while the right hemisphere is associated with negative emotions and withdrawal. Your dog's body is constantly broadcasting information. Ears forward means alertness and interest. Ears back suggests fear or submission. A play bow, that position where the front legs are stretched out and the rear is in the air, is an invitation. A signal that whatever comes next should be interpreted as play rather than aggression. Dogs have evolved these clear communication signals to avoid conflicts, to establish social bonds, to coordinate activities with both other dogs and with humans. And here's something that feels almost magical about the way dogs play. When dogs engage in play fighting, they actually take turns winning and losing. The larger, stronger dog will intentionally let the smaller dog gain the upper hand, will roll over and expose their belly, will handicap themselves to keep the interaction balanced and fun. This isn't weakness, it's social sophistication. Dogs understand that play requires cooperation, that both participants need to enjoy the interaction for it to continue. They're following unspoken rules, demonstrating empathy and self-control. This reveals something important about dog emotions. Dogs are not simple creatures driven purely by instinct. They're capable of complex social calculations, of empathy, of adjusting their behavior based on the emotional states of others. When your dog gently mouths a puppy but plays roughly with an adult dog, they're demonstrating awareness of vulnerability and appropriate force. When they approach a crying child softly and lick their face, they're responding to distress with a comforting behavior. This is emotional intelligence in action, which brings us to understand something profound about loyalty, the quality dogs are most famous for. Loyalty isn't just obedience or habit. It's a choice dogs make, a bond they form that persists even in the face of hardship. There's a statue in Tokyo of a dog named Hachiko, who waited at a train station every day for 9 years after his owner died, continuing to show up at the exact time his owner's train used to arrive, waiting for a reunion that would never come. This isn't a unique story. Throughout history, dogs have demonstrated loyalty that defies practical explanation, staying with injured or deceased owners, traveling impossible distances to reunite with their families, choosing connection over comfort, time and time again. But loyalty has a biological foundation. Dogs bond through oxytocin, through shared experiences, through the gradual building of trust and familiarity. Every walk, every meal, every moment of attention strengthens the neural pathways that associate you with safety, pleasure, and belonging. Your dog's loyalty isn't mystical. It's the result of thousands of small interactions that have woven you into the fabric of their brain, making you as essential to their sense of self as their own heartbeat. And this connects to why separation anxiety is so painful for dogs. When you leave, you're not just absent. You've removed the center of their world. Dogs with severe separation anxiety aren't being dramatic or manipulative. They're experiencing genuine panic because their attachment figure, the being they've structured their entire reality around, has disappeared. Time becomes elastic and terrifying. The house feels empty in a way that goes beyond physical absence. For some dogs, this anxiety is so intense that they injure themselves trying to escape, or they destroy property not out of spite, but out of overwhelming distress. Understanding this changes how we should think about leaving dogs alone. It's not a matter of discipline or training them to get over it. It's about recognizing that we've created creatures who are neurologically wired to need us, who experience our absence as a profound disruption to their sense of safety. Helping dogs cope with separation requires patience, gradual desensitization, and sometimes acknowledging that some dogs simply cannot handle extended isolation because their bond with humans is too deep. But there's something beautiful about this dependence. Dogs trust us completely. They put their lives in our hands with an openness that humans rarely show each other. When your dog falls asleep with their belly exposed, when they follow you into unfamiliar places without hesitation, when they eat food from your hand without suspicion, they're demonstrating a level of trust that is both humbling and heavy with responsibility. We are gods to our dogs, and that means we carry an obligation to be worthy of their faith. And alongside this trust, dogs give us something equally precious. They live in the present in a way humans struggle to achieve. Your dog isn't worried about tomorrow's problems or dwelling on yesterday's disappointments. When they're with you, they're fully with you, present in the moment with an intensity that feels almost like enlightenment. This is why dogs are such effective therapy animals. They anchor us in the now, pulling us away from the anxious future and the regretful past, teaching us through their example how to simply be. Which brings us to the strange paradox of dog aging. Dogs live such short lives compared to humans, and this creates a particular kind of heartbreak. You will likely outlive every dog you ever love. This temporal inequality means that your entire adult life might contain several dogs, each one a distinct era, each goodbye a small death that you must somehow absorb and survive. But from the dog's perspective, you are their entire world for their entire existence. You are the constant that defines their reality from puppyhood to old age. The asymmetry is profound. They give us chapters, but we give them their whole story. And here's something that makes this asymmetry even more poignant. Dogs age differently than humans, but not in the simple 7-to-1 ratio you might have heard. Dogs age rapidly in their first 2 years, reaching adulthood faster than humans do. A 1-year-old dog is roughly equivalent to a 15-year-old human. A 2-year-old dog is like a 25-year-old human. After that, aging slows and varies by size. Small dogs live longer than large dogs, sometimes by many years. A Great Dane might only live 7 years, while a Chihuahua might live 18. Size is inversely related to lifespan in a way that scientists still don't fully understand. Some researchers believe that large dogs age faster because their cells divide more rapidly to maintain their larger bodies, and each cell division brings them closer to the end of their reproductive lifespan. Others point to the increased strain on organs, the higher rates of cancer, the mechanical stress on joints and bones. Whatever the mechanism, size determines how much time you'll have together, and this feels like a cruel calculus. The gentle giants who seem most noble and impressive are the ones we lose soonest. But there's something about dogs that transcends their individual lifespans. Dogs as a species have been our companions for longer than any other domesticated animal. They've been with us through the rise and fall of civilizations, through plagues and wars, through the entire span of recorded history and beyond. Every major human culture has had dogs. They appear in ancient art, in mythology, in religious texts. They're buried in graves alongside humans dating back thousands of years, suggesting that even our ancestors recognized dogs as more than mere tools or property. This reveals something profound about the human-dog relationship. It's not a recent invention or a quirk of modern society. It's one of the oldest partnerships in human history, possibly the oldest. We evolved together so intimately that we shaped each other's development. Humans may have become more successful hunters because we had dogs to help us track prey. Dogs may have been able to survive near human settlements because they could eat our scraps. Over time, the relationship became so interdependent that neither species would be quite the same without the other. And this partnership reveals itself in unexpected ways. Dogs were likely our first biotechnology, the first time humans deliberately shaped another species to serve our needs. But unlike crops or livestock, dogs shaped us back. Studies of ancient human remains show that populations with dogs had different settlement patterns, different hunting strategies, different survival rates than populations without them. Dogs changed human history, allowing us to expand into new territories, to hunt more effectively, to protect our communities from predators and invaders. We didn't just domesticate dogs, we co-evolved with them in a dance of mutual transformation. Consider the implications of this. When you look at your dog, you're seeing the result of the longest genetic experiment in human history. A collaboration between species that spans hundreds of generations. Your dog's ancestors were choosing humans at the same time humans were choosing them. The wolves that became dogs were the ones brave enough to approach human fires, curious enough to investigate human settlements, flexible enough to adapt to a diet of human scraps. They self-selected for tameness, for compatibility with humans, and in doing so, they became something entirely new. And this process of domestication changed more than just behavior. It changed dog biology in fundamental ways. Domesticated animals, including dogs, share a suite of characteristics called domestication syndrome. They have floppy ears, shorter snouts, curled tails, varied coat colors and patterns. Their skulls are smaller relative to their body size. They retain juvenile features into adulthood, a phenomenon called neoteny. These changes weren't directly selected for. They're side effects of selecting for tameness. When you breed animals for docility, you're actually selecting for changes in neural crest cells during development, and these cells influence many aspects of physical appearance. So your dog's floppy ears and spotted coat aren't just cute accidents. They're markers of domestication, physical evidence of the selection pressure toward gentleness and compatibility with humans. Dogs literally wear their domestication on their bodies, displaying the evidence of our long relationship in every floppy ear and wagging tail. But there's something deeper happening beneath these physical changes. Dogs have smaller brains than wolves, about 30% smaller relative to body size. This might seem like devolution, like a loss of intelligence, but it's actually evidence of specialization. Dogs don't need the same cognitive abilities that wolves need to survive in the wild. They don't need to plan complex hunts, or navigate vast territories, or manage the intricate social dynamics of a wolf pack. Instead, they've invested their cognitive resources in understanding humans, in reading our cues, in bonding with a different species. Their brains became smaller but more focused, trading general intelligence for specialized genius. This reveals a truth about evolution. It doesn't always move toward greater complexity or larger size. It moves toward fitness for a specific environment. For dogs, the environment is us. We are their habitat, their ecosystem. They've adapted to thrive in the niche created by human civilization, becoming creatures designed to live alongside us, to need us, to complement us. And here's where the mystery deepens. Dogs seem to have theory of mind, the ability to understand that other beings have thoughts and perspectives different from their own. When a dog hides a toy from another dog, they're demonstrating awareness that the other dog has their own knowledge and intentions. When a dog looks to you for guidance in an uncertain situation, they're acknowledging that you possess information they don't have. This is a cognitive ability that human children don't develop until around age 4. And many animals never develop at all. Your dog understands that you have a mind, that you think and feel and know things independently of them. This is why they can deceive you, leading you away from hidden treats or pretending to need to go outside when they really just want to play. Deception requires understanding that others can be misled, that your knowledge isn't automatically shared by everyone else. Dogs possess this understanding, use it strategically, demonstrate a social intelligence that rivals primates. Which brings us to something even more remarkable about dog cognition. Dogs can count. Not in the mathematical sense of abstract number manipulation, but in the concrete sense of quantity discrimination. Studies show that dogs can distinguish between different numbers of objects or treats, that they notice when one is added or taken away, that they expect consistency in quantities. They're doing basic arithmetic in their heads, tracking amounts and changes, demonstrating numerical cognition that suggests a much richer mental life than we might assume. And this numerical sense connects to their understanding of fairness. Dogs have a sense of inequity aversion. If one dog performs a trick and gets a treat, while another dog performs the same trick and gets nothing, the unrewarded dog will often refuse to continue participating. They recognize the unfairness, and they protest it through non-cooperation. This isn't just about wanting treats, it's about expecting consistent treatment, about recognizing social rules and being upset when those rules are violated. Dogs have a moral sense, primitive perhaps, but real. This moral sense extends to other behaviors. Dogs can feel guilt, though the guilty look they give you after destroying something might not be about the destruction itself, but about your reaction to it. They've learned to associate your anger with certain situations, and they display appeasement behaviors, lowered head, averted eyes, tucked tail, to reduce the likelihood of punishment. Whether this constitutes genuine guilt in the human sense is debatable, but it demonstrates that dogs track social rules, predict consequences, and modify their behavior to maintain social harmony. And alongside this moral sense, dogs demonstrate something even more profound. They can grieve not just for humans, but for other animals. Dogs who lose a companion dog often show signs of depression that can last for months. They search for the missing dog, whine at doors, lose interest in activities they used to enjoy. Some dogs refuse to eat, wasting away from what seems like heartbreak. This isn't anthropomorphism. This is documented behavior that suggests dogs form genuine attachments, that they experience loss as a real emotional trauma, that their social bonds matter to them in ways that go beyond simple habit or routine. Which brings us to understand something about the diversity of dog experiences. A dog living in an apartment in New York has a radically different life than a dog living on a farm in Montana. Yet both are living according to their nature. Dogs are extraordinarily adaptable, able to thrive in environments ranging from Arctic cold to desert heat, from bustling cities to isolated rural areas. This adaptability is part of what made them such successful companions for humans. They could follow us anywhere, could adjust to our lifestyles, could find ways to be useful or beloved in almost any context. But this adaptability has limits. Dogs need stimulation, both physical and mental. A dog bred to herd sheep will be miserable in an environment with no outlet for those instincts. A dog bred to run will suffer if confined to a small space with no exercise. We've created dogs with specific traits and drives, and when we place them in environments incompatible with those traits, we create suffering. The cute husky puppy becomes a destructive nightmare in an apartment without proper exercise. The border collie becomes neurotic without work to do. Understanding what dogs need requires understanding what they were bred for, what drives them, what gives their life meaning. And this connects to the strange reality that dogs don't just come in different shapes and sizes. They come with different personalities, different temperaments that are partially inherited and partially shaped by experience. Some dogs are naturally bold, others naturally cautious. Some are driven by food, others by play, others by praise. Your dog's personality is as unique as any human personality, shaped by genetics, by early experiences, by the accumulation of every interaction they've ever had. Puppies have critical socialization periods where experiences have outsized impacts on their future behavior. A puppy who has positive experiences with strangers, other dogs, and novel situations between 3 and 14 weeks old will likely be confident and friendly as an adult. A puppy who has frightening experiences, or no experiences at all during this window, may struggle with fear and anxiety for life. Those early weeks literally shape the brain, creating neural pathways that influence behavior permanently. What happens in puppyhood echoes through the entire lifespan. But even adult dogs continue to learn and change. The old saying that you can't teach an old dog new tricks is demonstrably false. Dogs remain capable of learning throughout their lives, though the process might be slower and require different approaches than training a young dog. An older dog brings patience, focus, and a deeper bond with their human that can actually make certain types of training easier. They know you better, trust you more, are more motivated to please you simply because the relationship has deepened over years of shared life. And here's something beautiful about aging dogs. As they slow down, as their muzzles gray and their eyes cloud with cataracts, as they move more stiffly and sleep more deeply, they often become even more affectionate. It's as if they understand their time is limited, as if they're savoring every moment. An old dog's love has a weight to it, a gravity born from years of loyalty and countless small moments of connection. When an old dog looks at you, they're looking with eyes that have watched you for years, that have seen you through different phases of your life, that hold a history that exists nowhere else. This is why losing a dog is so uniquely painful. You're not just losing a pet. You're losing a living archive of your own life, a being who remembered versions of you that no longer exist, who witnessed your private moments, who loved you not despite your flaws, but without even recognizing them as flaws. A dog's love is uncomplicated by judgment or expectation. They don't care about your achievements or failures, your appearance or wealth. They care that you exist, that you're present, that you're you. Which brings us to something most people don't consider. Dogs live multiple lives through reincarnation of sorts. Not literally, but through the way dog lovers almost always get another dog after one passes. Each dog is distinct, irreplaceable, unique. But each dog also carries forward something from the dogs that came before. You apply lessons learned from previous dogs. You recognize familiar gestures or expressions. You find yourself comparing, contrasting, seeing echoes of old companions in new ones. Your current dog is shaped by your relationship with dogs past, inheriting the effects of their training on you, benefiting from your accumulated wisdom about what dogs need. And this pattern of serial dog ownership creates a kind of immortality. The dogs themselves don't live forever, but the bond between humans and dogs persists, renewed with each new puppy, maintained across decades and generations. Families pass down stories of beloved dogs from the past, keeping their memory alive through narrative. Children who grow up with dogs often get dogs for their own children, perpetuating the relationship across familial generations. Dogs live on through the love they inspired, through the lessons they taught, through the space they created in human hearts that future dogs will fill. But there's a shadow side to dog ownership that deserves acknowledgement. Not all dogs live good lives. Puppy mills produce dogs in cruel conditions, treating them as products rather than living beings. Breed standards sometimes prioritize appearance over health, creating dogs with chronic pain or breathing difficulties or joint problems. Some dogs spend their lives chained outside, isolated and neglected. Others are abandoned when they become inconvenient, surrendered to shelters where they wait in kennels, confused and frightened, for adopters who may never come. The relationship between humans and dogs carries responsibility. We created dogs through selective breeding, made them dependent on us, shaped them to need human companionship and care. This means we owe them something, not just as individuals to our individual dogs, but as a species to the species we created. Every dog deserves a life worth living, deserves to express natural behaviors, deserves freedom from suffering, deserves love and security. The fact that this doesn't always happen represents a failure of human compassion, a betrayal of the oldest friendship in our history.
And yet, when the relationship works as it should, when a dog lives with humans who understand and value them, something almost sacred emerges. There's a purity to the bond that transcends language and culture. Dogs have been companions to emperors and peasants, to artists and soldiers, to children and elderly people approaching death. They fit into human lives at every stage, every circumstance, offering something essential that remains constant across all the variables of human existence. What dogs offer, ultimately,
Is presence. They teach us how to be fully in a moment, how to find joy in simple things, a walk, a meal, a patch of sunlight on the floor. They don't need entertainment or distraction. They need you. And when they have you, everything else becomes enough. This is a form of wisdom that humans spend lifetimes trying to achieve through meditation or philosophy, and dogs embody it naturally, effortlessly, teaching through example rather than instruction. And this presence carries healing power that extends beyond the individual. Therapy dogs visit hospitals, schools, disaster sites, anywhere humans are suffering. Their mere presence reduces stress, lowers blood pressure, creates moments of comfort in otherwise unbearable situations. A child who won't speak to therapists will often talk to a dog. A trauma victim who can't tolerate human touch will sometimes accept comfort from a dog. They bypass our defenses, reach places in the psyche that remain closed to other humans, offer connection without the complications that human relationships carry.
which brings us to understand something about the future of dogs.
As our world changes, as we face challenges from climate change to urbanization to technological transformation, dogs are adapting alongside us. City dogs learn to navigate subway systems and crowded sidewalks. Dogs in areas affected by climate disasters develop new roles in search and rescue. Service dogs are being trained to assist with an ever-expanding range of conditions, from PTSD to autism to conditions we're only beginning to understand. Dogs continue to find ways to be useful, to be needed, to secure their place in human society.
But there's also concern about what we're doing to dogs through continuing selective breeding.
Some breeds face serious health problems as a result of pursuing exaggerated physical traits. Bulldogs struggle to breathe because of their flattened faces. German Shepherds develop hip dysplasia from sloped backs that weren't part of the original breed standard. Cavalier King Charles Spaniels often have skulls too small for their brains, causing neurological pain. We've prioritized appearance over welfare in some cases, creating beauty that comes at the cost of suffering.
This raises ethical questions about our responsibility as the species that created dogs.
Do we have an obligation to breed for health rather than aesthetics? Should certain breeding practices be restricted or banned? How do we balance breed preservation with individual welfare? These aren't easy questions, but they're necessary ones. Dogs can't advocate for themselves. They accept whatever we give them, whatever bodies we create for them, with the same uncomplaining loyalty they show in everything else. This makes our choices on their behalf even more morally weighty.
And alongside these ethical concerns, there's something beautiful happening in the world of dog rescue and adoption.
More people are choosing to adopt dogs from shelters rather than buying from breeders. Mixed-breed dogs, once considered less desirable, are being celebrated for their genetic diversity and often better health. The stigma around rescue dogs is fading, as people recognize that these dogs aren't damaged or broken. They're simply waiting for a second chance, for a home where they can finally settle, finally relax, finally trust that they won't be abandoned again.
Rescue dogs often show remarkable resilience.
Dogs who have experienced neglect or abuse can learn to trust again, can form deep bonds with new families, can leave the trauma of their past behind in ways that seem almost miraculous. They don't seem to hold grudges or dwell on suffering. Once they're safe, once they're loved, they move forward with the same wholehearted commitment they bring to everything else. This capacity for healing, for starting over, For choosing love despite past betrayal is one of the most profound things about dogs.
Which brings us to something most people never consider. Every dog you see has an entire history you don't know. The old dog sleeping on the porch might have saved a child from drowning when they were young. The puppy bouncing in a yard might grow up to detect cancer in a stranger's body. The stray dog wandering the street might have escaped from an abusive situation and is now navigating a world that suddenly makes no sense. Each dog is living a full life with its own narrative arc, its own challenges and triumphs, its own internal experience that remains forever mysterious to us. We can observe dogs, study them, love them, but we can never fully know what it's like to be them. We can't experience the world through their intensely sensory perception, can't feel the drive of their instincts, can't access the content of their thoughts or dreams. There's a fundamental gap between species that no amount of affection or science can completely bridge. Dogs remain, in some essential way, alien to us. Familiar aliens, beloved aliens, but aliens nonetheless. And yet, despite this unbridgeable gap, we connect. We communicate across the species barrier through gesture and tone, through patience and attention, through the slow accumulation of shared experiences that create understanding without words. You learn your dog's signals, and they learn yours. You develop a private language that exists only between the two of you, a system of communication built from scratch through trial and error, through paying attention, through caring enough to decode each other's meaning. This is what love looks like at its most fundamental. It's the effort to understand, to bridge difference, to create connection despite obstacles. Every successful relationship between human and dog represents a small miracle of interspecies communication, a testament to the possibility of understanding across vast differences in perception and cognition. And here's something that feels almost mystical about dogs. They seem to know when you need them most. There are countless stories of dogs who stay close to their humans during illness or grief, who offer comfort before they're asked, who sense distress and respond with gentle presence. Whether this is instinct or something more is unknowable, but the effect is real. Dogs become sources of solace during life's darkest moments, offering a kind of support that doesn't require words or explanations. Maybe it's their ability to read your emotional state through scent and body language.
Maybe it's their natural inclination toward physical closeness when pack members are stressed. Maybe it's simply that they're always present, always available, always willing to sit with you in whatever you're feeling, without trying to fix or change it. Dogs don't offer advice or judgment. They offer themselves. And sometimes, that's exactly what's needed. Which brings us to the strange truth that dogs make us better humans. Studies show that people with dogs exercise more, socialize more, report higher levels of life satisfaction. Dog owners are more likely to know their neighbors, more likely to engage in community activities, more likely to stop and talk to strangers. Dogs are social catalysts, breaking down the barriers that urban life erects between people. A dog gives you a reason to go outside, to explore your neighborhood, to make eye contact and exchange greetings with other dog owners. They reconnect us to our physical environment and to each other. Children who grow up with dogs learn empathy, responsibility, and compassion in ways that lectures and books can't teach. They learn that other beings have needs that must be met, that love requires work, that relationships involve compromise and accommodation. They experience grief when dogs die, learning to process loss in a relatively safe context. They develop respect for creatures different from themselves, laying groundwork for broader environmental and social consciousness. And for elderly people, dogs provide purpose and routine in years that can otherwise feel empty. A dog needs walking, regardless of how you feel. A dog needs feeding, regardless of what else is happening. These obligations are actually gifts, giving structure to days that might otherwise blur together, giving reason to get out of bed, to stay engaged, to maintain physical and mental activity. Dogs keep their elderly owners young, not literally, but in spirit and habit.
But let me tell you something about the moment a dog chooses you.
Sometimes you choose a dog, visiting shelters or breeders until you find the right match. But sometimes, a dog chooses you. They walk up to you specifically, ignore everyone else, sit at your feet, and look up with eyes that seem to say, "You're mine." Trainers and shelter workers recognize this phenomenon. Dogs sometimes just know, through some calculus we can't access, which human they want to belong to. These chosen relationships often become the deepest bonds. The dog who chose you comes with a kind of certainty, a commitment that preceded any formal adoption process. They decided before you did, and once they've decided, they're unshakable in their devotion. There's something humbling about being chosen by a dog, about being deemed worthy of their loyalty by a creature whose judgment is based on instinct and feeling rather than logic or social convention.
And this connects to the final truth about dogs, the one that underlies everything else. Dogs are temporary. Their time with us is measured in years that pass too quickly, in moments that we often fail to fully appreciate until they're gone. Every dog owner knows the weight of this knowledge, carries it like a shadow behind every happy moment. You're loving something you will lose, investing emotionally in a being whose lifespan is a fraction of your own. But maybe this temporariness is part of what makes the relationship so precious. Because time is limited, every walk matters. Every greeting becomes significant. Every ordinary moment of companionship carries extra weight because you know, somewhere in the back of your mind, that the number of these moments is finite and decreasing. Dogs teach us to value the present because the present is all we're guaranteed. Tomorrow is uncertain, for them and for us, so today becomes everything. When you look at your dog, you're seeing a being who is giving you their entire life. From their perspective, you are their whole world, their entire universe of meaning and attachment. This is an extraordinary gift, this complete devotion, this wholehearted presence. They ask for relatively little in return: food, shelter, attention, love. The asymmetry seems impossibly generous. They give everything and ask only that you care for them, only that you be present, only that you love them back even a fraction as much as they love you. And when the end comes, as it inevitably does, when age or illness makes it clear that their time is finished, you're faced with the hardest choice dog ownership demands. You can, if you're willing, give them one final gift: the gift of a gentle death, free from suffering, surrounded by love. This is a terrible mercy, a responsibility that weighs like stones, but it's also an act of profound compassion. You can ensure that their last moment is peaceful, that they slip away in your arms rather than alone or in pain. The grief that follows is real and legitimate. You're not crying over just a dog. You're mourning a relationship that shaped your life, a presence that became woven into your daily existence, a soul that loved you unconditionally. The house feels empty in specific ways. You expect to hear their footsteps. You turn to share something with them before remembering they're gone. You find their toys or their collar and feel the loss fresh and sharp all over again. But even in grief, there's something beautiful. The pain is proportional to the love. The fact that it hurts this much is evidence of how much they mattered, how deep the connection went, how real the bond was. And eventually, the sharp grief softens into something gentler, a bittersweet gratitude for the time you had, a recognition that loving them was worth the inevitable cost of losing them. Their life may have been short by human standards, but you made it good. You gave them walks and treats and belly rubs.
You kept them safe and warm. You spoke to them in the special voice you only used for them. You let them sleep on the furniture even though you said you wouldn't. You took them to the vet when they were sick, played with them when they brought you toys, forgave them when they made mistakes. You did your best, and for a dog, that's enough. They don't need perfection. They need presence and love and commitment. And if you gave them those things, then you gave them everything that matters. And so we come full circle, back to where we began. Dogs know when you're coming home. They can smell time, track it through the fading of your scent, measure their weight in a currency we don't possess. They know you're returning before you arrive, and they prepare for the reunion, for the moment when their waiting ends and their world becomes whole again. This is the essence of dogs. They wait for us. They greet us. They love us with a purity and intensity that asks nothing except that we be worth waiting for. If you found value in this journey through the world of dogs, I'd be grateful if you'd subscribe and join us for more gentle explorations of the wonders around us. And whether you're drifting towards sleep or simply resting in this moment, I'm glad you were here. Thank you for listening. Good night.